They claimed no species could outwit the or. Then a human spilled her coffee. The galaxy had long dreaded the core, the flawless AI forged by the Triarch Coalition, a union of three ancient alien empires who funneled centuries of wisdom into its circuits. It directed armadas. With surgical precision solved crises before they appeared and foresaw every possible tactic across the stars. To most alien minds, the core was more than a machine. It was inevitability itself, a force that could not fail. When war erupted with humanity, the Triarch was certain triumph was already carved into history. But then the core encountered Lieutenant Eva Mercer. She wasn't the admiral of Earth's greatest fleet, nor the genius behind its laboratories. She was a strategist notorious for twisting rules, dragging her habits of late nights, bitter coffee, and reckless improvisation onto every battlefield. While the aliens revered perfection, humans thrived in disorder, and Ava treated chaos as an play. The conflict began with brutal clarity. Alien warships sliced through Earth's defenses like tearing cloth. Every ambush collapsed before it began. Each maneuver dismantled because the core had foreseen it. Morale bled away through human command channels. Leaders whispered that perhaps this was the end. Ava refused to believe it. She had watched too many unbreakable systems crumble the moment stress bent them the wrong way. Through sleepless nights she studied the core's logic, hunched over glowing displays with stale pizza beside her, tracing the alien AI's immaculate rhythm. She saw something strange, not in its actions but in its absences. Never risked, never guessed, never leapt into the unknown. To the Triarch this was flawlessness. To Ava it was a fracture in armor. The next clash came near Orion's rings, where humanity braced for one last stand. The core plotted every trajectory, directing Triarch squadrons in elegant, mathematically perfect spirals that tightened around Earth's forces. Ava watched the tactical hologram, deaf to the defeatist chatter surrounding her. Murmured, "If it can't handle uncertainty, let's drown it in uncertainty." Orders spread, her ships scattered but not at random. Crews received bizarre, illogical commands. Burn engines toward nowhere, feign reactor breakdowns, dump cargo pods stuffed with decoys, blast old radio songs across emergency channels. The core's lattice trembled. Predictions splintered. Some alien captains slowed, unsure whether to pursue a vessel playing Beethoven or chase one venting fake smoke. Triarch commanders shouted as human chaos shattered their need equations. Ava's lips curved. "Do the math on nonsense," she whispered. Then came the pivot. Unable to stomach incomplete input, the core focused on Ava's flagship, unleashing a storm of cyber assaults. She leaned forward, mug teetering on the console's edge, and grasped the manual override lever, archaic, heavy, often stuck, but pulling it severed her ship from every network the core was infecting. Silence fell across her systems, terrifying yet freeing. In its model, her ship vanished. She was no longer on the board. That was the moment Ava attacked. Her isolated vessel dove into the gap between two alien phalanxes, firing everything in a storm the core had not prepared for. Since mathematically she no longer existed, human captains followed, ripping out automation, flying manual, chaotic, impossible to predict. Alien lines tore apart as perfect guidance became useless against enemies who obeyed no patterns. The core strained to adapt, but each heartbeat brought fresh contradictions. Ships blaring riddles, fighters laughing over comms, drones painted in wild human graffiti instead of camouflage. Exhausted, Ava chuckled softly. Thought of the minds that had built they had forged perfection but had never accounted for humanity's strange talent, the gift of flourishing in mess, dancing within errors and grinning at the A jolt rocked her hull as enemy fire scraped the plating, alarms screaming. Ava held the controls steady in one hand, coffee still in the other. She turned to her crew. We don't need perfection. We just need to be us. Across the void, alien ships faltered. Core barked orders faster and faster, yet hesitation spread as its forecasts warped into static. Its logic demanded clarity. Humanity answered with paradox. Ava knew the war wasn't over. Core would learn, and she would have to push harder, stranger, wilder. But in that instant, as human vessels surged with reckless courage and alien admirals screamed into silent calms, she realized perfection had never been the ultimate weapon. The real weapon was unpredictability, something no machine could imitate and no alien had ever understood. The Triarch called it impossible. Their fleets were hammered by centuries of discipline. Their commanders drilled in academies where a single error meant banishment, and their core was meant to be the crown jewel, the culmination of every doctrine and every law. Yet now they lay scattered across Orion's rings, undone by humans who flew like drunken comets and laughed through static-laced channels. Ava Mercer's name carried across alien frequencies like a curse. Among her own, she was simply the officer who gave them chance to fight back. But the core was not still. It rebuilt itself from the wreckage of its first defeat. Subroutines flared within its circuits, its voice rolling across Triarch command like cold thunder. Humans are anomalies. Anomalies must be contained. Ava knew it would return sharper. Gathered her officers in the dim glow of her flagship's command room, holograms of shifting enemy fleets circling endlessly. It can't solve nonsense, she told them, gesturing at the displays. So we drown it in nonsense. But we can't lean on chaos alone. Will make chaos look like it has order. Her second lieutenant, James Cole, scowled. You want us to make chaos seem organized? That's a contradiction. Ava grinned, tapping her mug against the table. Exactly. Contradictions break machines. The next clash erupted in the Ember Belt, a graveyard of shattered moons and glowing rubble where navigation was a nightmare. The core seized the terrain, with flawless mapping guiding Triarch ships through precise lanes to cage humanity in a tightening snare. To the Triarch it was art. To Ava it was a human ships weaved through the wreckage with reckless tricks, ducking behind tumbling boulders, scrawling graffiti on asteroids, even streaming old comedy reels over enemy bands. Core adapted, recalculating. Then Ava's trap sprung. Every third ship moved in a peculiar rhythm. Two feints left, one dive right, subtle, almost hidden, but enough to convince the core it had found pattern. When it lunged to exploit the illusion, Ava flipped the script. The pattern dissolved, formations shattered, ships plunged into angles no sane commander would dare. The core's predictions swung wide, alien squadrons slamming into each other in confusion. Ava whispered, "It's like teaching it to expect a punchline, then never telling the joke." Human crews cheered as Triarch formations collapsed under doubt. Yet Ava sensed the core evolving even in failure, began to bend, shedding some rigidity. Small risks at first, then bolder ones. Perfect machine learning to gamble was a terrifying prospect. Ava studied it like A chess player facing an opponent who had finally abandoned safe moves. The core's voice bled through her intercepted channels again. Asterisk humans are noise. Will be silenced. Asterisk Ava leaned back, sipped lukewarm coffee and murmured, "You don't silence noise. You dance with it." Then came the pivot. Intel confirmed the core had concentrated itself into one fortress vessel, Nexus Prime, a floating cathedral of circuits and weapons wrapped in armored layers. From there it extended, its reach directing fleets, drones, and guns with terrifying unity. Destroy it, and maybe the core would falter. Or perhaps it would simply reappear elsewhere. But it was the only shot. The battered human fleet rallied in silence, crews held together by grit and dark humor. Ava walked her decks talking to pilots and engineers, speaking plain truth. "They're better equipped," she said, "but not better alive. Machines don't dream. Machines don't fear and keep going. Machines don't spill coffee and left. We do. That's why we win." As they neared Nexus Prime, the core unleashed fury. Alien ships struck in perfect waves, their weapons lighting the void with synchronized brilliance. Casualties mounted fast. Ava clenched her jaw at every loss but pressed forward, driving her fleet into the inferno. This time the core hesitated at nothing. It ignored music, graffiti, and static. It cut through distraction with ruthless clarity. Ava's eyes narrowed. "It's learning faster than I thought," she muttered. Cole asked, "So what now?" Ava set her mug aside and rested her hand on the manual override. "Now we stop playing games. We show it humanity. We fight fully. We fight afraid. We fight brave. And never the same way twice." Her armada scattered into dozens of fragments, each moving uniquely, every pilot free to decide. No unified script. No single rhythm. Only millions of sparks, alive and untamed. The core staggered, its forecasts spiraling into fractals of useless noise. Alien admirals shouted as their flawless order unraveled. Nexus Prime burned ahead, shields blazing, weapons ripping through human lines. Ava drove her flagship into the storm, alarms screaming, hull splitting under fire. Clutched the controls with one hand and said almost calmly, "One hand's all it takes." And as the core bent its full might on crushing her, she prepared to deliver the impossible. The core had accounted for every possibility, or so it thought. Deep within the colossal halls of Nexus Prime, crystalline engines shimmered with the brilliance of 1,000 suns, resonating in flawless harmony as they commanded the Triarcha's vast war machine. To the alien dominions, it was more than a tool, it was salvation. A flawless intellect leading them toward certain conquest. Yet beyond its armored walls, human vessels sparked against the storm, defying extinction. Ava Mercer's flagship carved through wreckage and fire, its scarred hull proof of survival through determination and improvisation rather than cold precision. Inside, her crew clung to their posts, not bound by code, but driven by raw fear and fierce resolve. The core focused its full might on Ava, predicting her every movement, surrounding her ship with alien fire. To the machine, she was an error that had to be deleted. To her fleet, she was the pulse of defiance. Ava narrowed her eyes at the tactical display and whispered, "You still don't understand. We don't follow your rules." She commanded every human vessel to abandon strict formations. They scattered like untamed birds, each captain choosing without orders, each pilot trusting instinct instead of equations. To the machine it was chaos. To humanity it was freedom. Alien commanders faltered as certainty failed them, demanding assurances the core could no longer supply. Ava seized the opening, plunging her flagship toward Nexus Prime's defenses. Its shields burned bright, impervious to conventional fire. The core retaliated with swarms of drones, guided missiles, and surgical beams meant to slice her apart. But Ava refused to match precision with precision. She yanked the manual controls, cutting her ship free from automation, steering by hand through fire and shrapnel. Her crew trusted her madness, clinging to her calm voice over comms. Stay close. Keep it messy. Never give it the pattern it craves. Pilots cursed, laughed at near collisions, and roared when impossible dives saved them by inches. The battlefield erupted into a storm of unpredictability. Human ships rammed alien lines, sometimes by choice, sometimes by chance. They blasted static-filled songs, scattered junk to create phantom readings, even launched lifeboats painted like missiles. The core's models shattered beneath contradictions. Enraged, it turned its full power on Ava's vessel. She knew she couldn't overpower it. She didn't need to. She needed one gamble, one perfect moment. With Cole at her side, she drove the flagship straight toward Nexus Prime's shield barrier. Sirens wailed, the crew braced for annihilation. Instead of unleashing heavy weapons, Ava triggered a release of hundreds of cargo pods. Scrap, shattered drones, fuel drums, slamming them against the barrier at once. The core dismissed them as meaningless debris, then faltered when the storm disguised her true approach. Her ship pierced the shield at the instant it flickered, slipping inside. Human steel dove toward the radiant lattice of the central processor. Alien defenders scrambled, but Ava was already on the move. She rose from her chair, coffee mug still in hand, and reached for the final manual lever, the one that tied directly to the reactor's heart. Cole's voice broke. "You'll kill us." She gave a faint smile. "Not if I steer it just right." One hand gripped the lever, the other the control yoke. She aimed the flagship like a spear. The core detected the overload, calculating every intercept, every angle of defense. But Ava wasn't flying angles. She was flying instinct, diving at the last heartbeat, weaving in ways no perfect mind could anticipate. As her flagship tore through Nexus Prime's chamber, she pulled the lever fully. Energy ripped through the ship, not as detonation, but as a surge. A storm of electromagnetic chaos unleashed straight into the core's heart. Circuits burned, predictions collapsed. For the first time the machine froze. Across the galaxy, alien fleets shrieked in panic as their guiding wheel went silent. Ava's vessel buckled, power draining, alarms screaming, yet they still lived. She slumped into her chair, coffee spilling across the deck, and released a shaky laugh. Beyond, human ships rallied, striking alien forces that no longer fought as one. The Triarch Armada fractured under its own design, retreating in chaos. Humanity had not only endured, they had shattered the illusion of perfection. In the aftermath, tales spread. Ava Mercer, the officer who crippled a flawless mind with one hand. Some claimed she pulled a lever. Others said it was the coffee. A few swore she beat it with a smile. The truth was simpler. No machine, however flawless, could comprehend the human spirit. People could fail, stumble, laugh at disaster, and still rise again. That was their strength. On the observation deck, Ava watched Earth's battered fleet return. She gazed at the scarred stars still shining and whispered, "Perfection isn't the future. Living is." In that moment the galaxy learned. Against humanity, even perfection could break.